What's the real problem that we're dealing with when we talk about the name of the session is delegitimization? I would suggest we consider the title "The Assault on the Right of the Jewish People to Self-Determination in Their Own Homeland." As I see it, it's a global problem, not one of the State of Israel, but one of the Jewish people around the world and their right to self-determination. But what's the real problem symptomatically? Is the problem the one in Berkeley of people wearing keffiyehs and calling the State of Israel, the nation state of the Jewish people, an apartheid state, a racist state, a criminal state? Is that the problem? Partially. Is the problem one which Brooke Goldstein just mentioned, one in London in which former Foreign Minister Tzipi Livni and Defense Minister Barak cannot get on an airplane and land in London without the real threat of being arrested? It's a symptom, partially. But I want to tell you a secret. There's another problem that may be even more pressing, and one that's very painful, I think, for Israel and Jewish leaders around the world and the Jewish community. And that's the notion that in large part, Israel over the last 18 years and Jewish leadership have adopted the language and the narrative of their opponents. Let me give you an example. 1 year ago, at this very forum, stood a senior official of the Israeli government. He was in the presence of the Prime Minister of the Palestinian Authority, Salam Fayyad, and the senior Israeli official said that if, in fact, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict weren't solved immediately, then Israel would either become a binational state or would become an apartheid state. Now, what kind of a message does that send to Mr. Fayyad? What kind of a message does that send to the Jewish world, who are fighting in every front, it owns every capital in this world, for the basic legitimacy of the State of Israel and the Jewish people to live in security and freedom? Are we criminalizing ourselves? I mean, let's understand. Are we saying that we are a criminal entity the way our opponents claim day in and day out? Are we saying that we should be left to the sidelines in the farthest perimeter of the international community, the way those at the London School of Economics said today, the front page of Ma'ariv, and are saying every day on college campuses around the world? It's no surprise, ladies and gentlemen, that Mr. Fayyad's office used the exact same language just 90 days ago, saying, and I'll quote the English translation of the Arabic, "Israel represents a policy of state terror which the Zionist apartheid state is carrying out against the Palestinians." This is Mr. Fayyad's office, not the Hamas. Ladies and gentlemen, in political warfare, which is the context in which we are fighting for our very existence, words are weapons. And I think it behooves us to think very carefully and vigilantly before we become the weapons supplier of our opponents. We all remember the cliche. Many of us remember the cliche, "Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me." Well, words can kill, and words do kill. But it's not only the question of language. There is also a deeper question that I think we have to ask ourselves as friends of Israel, family of Israel, Israelis and Jews around the world. And that is, have we adopted the narrative of our opponents? Since 1993, Israel's desperate search for peace has brought it to adopt what one can call concession-based diplomacy. The notion that conceding more and more territory will bring us to a peace agreement with our neighbors, while our neighbors at the same time, who have not said one positive thing about the State of Israel in 18 years, can insist that the issue is one of rights and historical justice. Israel says the issue is peace. The Palestinians say the issue is one of their rights and historical justice. That creates an asymmetry and a painful paradox in which in which Israel's legitimacy, that is mirrored in many European circles, is only a function of the number of concessions it is willing to make. There is no inherent legitimacy to the State of Israel. It is connected only and exclusively to the possibility that it will make more and more concessions. And therefore, the message that is sent out from Jerusalem is that Israel really has no rights, and it is admitting as such. And its right is only a function of concession. Where are our rights? We have rights in this conflict, don't we? Where are our rights? Where are Israel's rights? Where are the rights of the Jewish people? We give, therefore we are. Well, it wasn't always that way, ladies and gentlemen, that in fact past leaders, I remember a time that Abba Evan said in 1950 at the United Nations, the Jews' devotion to the holy city of Jerusalem has been a constant theme of our people for 3,000 years. Yitzhak Rabin said in his last speech at the Knesset, 30 days before his tragic assassination, talked about the importance of a united Jerusalem as a non-conditional requirement for the Jewish people and the State of Israel going forward. And he talked about Israel's rights in what is called the former West Bank, what he called Judea and Samaria. So, and it's not only our leaders, it's also the international community. It was, in fact, the source of our legitimacy is not traced or rooted in the 1947 partition plan, is it? It is rooted in the modern period, in the beginning of last century, when Israel was the only country in the 192-member UN system whose rights to sovereignty were twice affirmed. First by the League of Nations in 1922, and then through Article 80 of the United Nations Charter. And the language which many of you know that was used by the international community was the right of the Jewish people to reconstitute their home in that country. Reconstitute means that there was a prior claim and an international recognition of a prior claim. That is the root of our legitimacy. And it is with that that I say yes to peace. We should say yes to diplomacy, yes to this possibility of a two-state solution, but yes to readopting our own language, yes to readopting our own narrative based on our rights. Because only then, ladies and gentlemen, can we stand confidently as an international Jewish community, as the nation-state of the Jewish people in Israel and around the world, to defeat those in London and those in Berkeley who will increase and are increasing the assault on our fundamental rights as the Jewish people in our own nation-state. Thank you very much.